I visited many distilleries in my day, but there's only been one distillery that when I was there, their story brought me to tears. And if you want to hear about it, then stick around. Let's talk a little about the story. First off, we have a special guest. We have Allison Holly with us today. Yay. And Allison is your friendly neighborhood admin for the Bourbon Real Talk Community Facebook page.
Without the red cardigan, yes.
Yeah. And Allison somehow accidentally got roped into being the one that
coordinates the challenge coins.
That reviews every post to determine whether or not there is challenge coin worthy activity in it.
Yes.
So if you ever got a challenge coin, it's probably Allison's.
Probably me that reaches out. Yes, I'm a real person, and no, I'm not going to sell your information on the, the dark webs.
No, we don't do that.
No, we just
are real, and Chrissy is real.
Yes, Chrissy and I are real.
Also
real people.
Yeah.
We just love to celebrate good acts on the BRTC.
We do.
Yeah.
Kind people goes a long way.
But we become such close friends that we did go on vacation together.
Yep.
We went to San Miguel de Allende together for
super fun.
The Day of the Dead celebration.
The whole reason for our trip to Mexico was, Dia de los Muertos and honoring the Day of the Dead.
All of the skulls and all that stuff that you see from Mexican culture, it's actually a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And
you're inviting your family.
You're inviting
to cross that plane from
the spirit of your loved ones to come back and to commune with you. Yeah. You entice them with their favorite foods and things like that.
Yeah, you create an altar.
So you create an altar. I got to experience that when I went on this trip, and some dear friends set it up. Delaney, she had a friend that's an artist that turns his house into a memorial for lost loved ones, and I was given the opportunity to have my brother honored at this memorial.
Then in 24 hours, he took a photo that I had on my phone and blew it up to a giant portrait of Sean. It filled a window, and there were fresh flowers, and it was a fun picture of Sean being Sean.
It's my favorite photo.
Yeah, it was really special.
We got all dressed up. We went to the square around La Parroquia.
Yeah.
And I will say that somewhere around 1% of the U.S. population has watched this show statistically, based on unique views and the population number. I don't get recognized very often, but the last time I really felt like a celebrity was in San Miguel.
When we got all dressed up.
Oh, yeah.
We were fully
there was like 6 of us.
Decked out.
Yeah, full regalia, the makeup, the hats.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Like bedazzled at the wazoo.
Yeah,
we went
so
to
fun.
La Parroquia, stood in the gazebo, and
There's
took
there's a gazebo
we
in
took
the,
like photos with
strangers
for hours.
Yeah.
Even locals.
Yeah.
Let me take a picture with you because it's become very much a.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a spectacle. There's like a whole parade. It's like 2 days worth of parades.
Yeah.
And we're going. I think we took like 200 pictures. I got asked, "Hey, here's this bottle of mezcal. Go model."
Yeah.
Like, cool. Thanks. Where's my endorsement?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any royalties from
No
that.
royalties.
No.
But while we were there, we did take a special trip to Querétaro.
Querétaro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's
Q-Town is what I was
Q-Town, yes. So Allison is going to be helping us with pronunciation because of the 3 of us, she has the most
been there the
training
most often
in pronunciation.
knows
Yeah.
her
So
stuff.
what was the distillery that we went to?
So, Bebidas Sabrosas in Querétaro. And so, actually, if you look at it, it is, the bottom of this label is vinos y licores, so it's wines and spirits. And so it's made by hand, feet, and like passion. But yeah, it's in Querétaro, which is about 4.5 hours north of Mexico City.
Yeah, and it's probably the city you'll fly into if you ever decide to go to San Miguel. But their whiskey production philosophy is a little bit different than what I'm used to. To be honest, whenever I found out we were going on a distillery tour. I was like, great, another distillery tour, because I've been on a lot, and they're pretty ubiquitous at this point. But I was very quickly pleasantly surprised. Yep. Everything they do is extremely craft. And I think the first thing that excited me was that they started to talk about all these heirloom varietals of corn. They don't really care about the maturation process. They use all used barrels on purpose because they don't want the barrel to influence the flavor of the whiskey.
Yep.
And they malt their own corn, which I didn't even know that malting corn was a thing. And it's very important for their manufacturing process, because here in the United States, most whiskeys that have corn in it are put through a hammer mill that will bash it into flour. And they need that small particulate to increase the surface area during the cook, so that they can convert all of the carbohydrates into sugars. But at this distillery, they use a malting process to convert carbohydrates into sugars, so they don't have to pound the corn into flour. And they actually use a molcajete, which is like a volcanic rock roller mill that they had custom made to coarsely grind the corn. And when
they're just hand rolling that, and just kind of goes through and mashes and get large particles that are left floating on top of the maturation tanks.
Right. And so they're actually able to filter out the grain solids before they put it in the pot.
Yep.
And that piqued my interest, because I don't like a lot of whiskeys that have corn in the mash bill that are made on pot stills here in the United States. There are certainly exceptions. But the pot still distillation process allows those grain solids, when they pound it into flour, to come in contact with the heat source, and that imparts flavor into the whiskey that is not always positive for my palate. But since they are using some different processes and they're able to remove those grain solids before it goes into the pot, they were able to produce flavors that I'm not used to experiencing here in the United States. And their commitment to the craft was honestly beautiful and
for sure.
inspiring. And they do everything that they can at this distillery to focus on the grain,
on the corn,
and the flavor that is imparted by the grain. And I don't want to screw this up. So Danny, who was our guide when we were there, she emailed this to me, and I want to read it exactly so that I get it correct. She said, "There's a reason why all of our farmers are featured on the back label of our whiskeys. It's not just because we're committed to having a traceable product. Almost every story behind our whiskey has to do with the relationships that we've built with every farmer. It's not just about a transaction, corn for money. It's more about building trust, showing each and every one that their corn is important to us and that we respect its history, and our job is to translate that and its heritage into a delicious drink." And I did not know this until we were at this distillery, but there's a wide diversity of corn varieties in Mexico, right?
Yeah, so there's 64 breeds of corn in Mexico alone. So, I mean, this whole process it's a labor of love of how can we take these indigenous corn varietals and extract these flavors and bring them, because, what's Mexico most known for? Tequila and mezcal. And so doing a whiskey is something so entirely different. And I mean, you go to the distillery, you walk on site, it's like everything, it's very much like in the culinary scene, it's, it's farm to table. Well, they have a great restaurant, but everything is farm to table. Everything is farm to glass. And I mean, it's a labor of love in bringing these 64 corn varietals, and we got 4 here that we get to taste and choose from. But like, it's all about the corn.
But it's what I didn't know is that here in the United States, we've kind of abandoned the historical significance of different varietals of corn. But in Mexico, that's not happened. There are family groups, there are indigenous groups of people
that are fighting
to maintain their heritage, and part of their heritage is the species of corn that they've grown for potentially thousands of years
that have literally kept their people
alive. And because of the importance of their different varietals of corn, they protect them, and they won't let
anybody use them for anything.
just come along and use them. And so there were some pretty miraculous stories about how this distillery got access to some of the corn that they're using. And that was what moved me. Those were the stories that actually brought tears to my eyes. To think about the family legacy and the history and the sacrifice, and the point at which relationship and trust was conveyed because they were willing to let somebody use their corn. But this distillery's specific purpose is to partner with the farmers. And their mission is to highlight the rich history of the corn and to keep that history alive in Mexico. So what's the first whiskey that we have here?
So the first whiskey we have here is the Amarillo corn out of the region of Chiapas. And the farmer is Gabriel Galvez. So it's a Maíz Amarillo Tuxpeño.
We're gonna need her for that. Yeah, I wouldn't have known that.
So Chiapas is in the southern region of Mexico. So you think about Mexico goes into South America, and so you have ocean on either side, and so like that environment's going to impact that crop and impact the flavor of that crop. So
and they're very much about terroir and highlighting the terroir, right? And I know that some people don't believe that terroir exists in distilled spirits. But if you tasted these whiskeys, you would know for sure. And there's actually one version of the whiskey that I don't know if you know this, but I read this in the email that there's two different individuals that are producing the same species of corn in two different locations. And eventually they're going to release whiskeys that they've made from both locations so that you can taste the difference in the species based on terroir.
So fun.
Yeah, which is very, very interesting. So what do you get on the nose and palate on this?
So the Amarillo is very, just very cream corn. It's super sweet.
It literally smells like cream corn.
Yeah, like I taste that corn for sure, but it's, I don't know, it's like honey on the lips because it's just so sweet and delicate.
There is a honey flavor on this that it's almost in the direction of like mellow corn, but much bolder, much more depth of flavor.
Like mellow corn, I get kind of more of a peppery because of the aging process with the barrel, and this is just 100% like it's just good sweet corn. It's tasty.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an Iowa girl, and I was, raised on a bunch of corn, and
this is nothing like what you were raised on.
Well, no, because it's like I don't generally like sweet corn, but it's a really nice like flavor. It's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a little bit going on in there. There's a little bit of a white pepper, maybe a little bit of like mint or spearmint. But honey, but corn flavor for sure, like sweet cream corn, delicious. So what's the second whiskey and corn varietal that we have here, Allison?
So the second one we have is the Maíz Negro, and it's black corn. The farmer is Jorge Rangel. And so this one is my favorite, honestly. Well, my second favorite, because I have another favorite. But the region is in Guanajuato. Guanajuato is a state in Mexico. So this is from Campo, Guanajuato. And yes.
Okay. There's just a little splashy poo left.
A little splashy poo.
That's fine.
So Jorge is a peanut farmer. That's the cool thing. So the distillery owner Jaime went to this farmer's market basically because his kids love peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, all right, we're going to go to this peanut farmer, Jorge, and who sells candied peanuts and salted peanuts, regular peanuts, peanut butter, like all the things peanuts.
Yeah.
And then, like one day at the farmer's market, I was like, hey, you got some black corn tortillas there, which, I mean, how often have you seen a black corn tortilla?
I'd be scared.
No, I don't really, not very often. Looks a little bit kind of something from The Walking Dead, maybe, I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, you go and see that. And so he said, hey, where is this? And let's pick up the story.
Yeah, so Jorge was like, oh, yeah, I'm a fourth generation farmer that grows this varietal of corn that's been in my family for generations. And I made these tortillas out of my black corn. And the way that the distillery will try to build relationships with these corn farmers, because they don't want to give up access to their corn.
Sure.
is they invite them out and they show them the respect and honor that they show to the corn in the distillation process and everything that they do to make sure that the corn is the main star of the show.
Yep.
And so they invited Jorge out, and they try to show him like all of the different elements of the process and all that stuff. And then they get down to the end, and they're like, yeah, and we do this special process with this and the corn and blah, blah, blah. And they find out that Jorge has a master's degree in what?
It's a master's degree in nixtamalization. So like how basically fermenting corn and pulling up the flavors from the corn and going through. I mean, everything that literally the distillery is doing. This guy's like, oh yeah,
I know
that's
that.
what I do on a Sunday.
Yeah. And so they think this guy is like a dude that runs a shop at the local market.
Just a peanut
And
guy,
it turns
and
out
he's
he
got
has a master's degree in chemistry
Yeah.
and knew everything.
All the things.
And so what are the tasting notes on this guy?
So this one is really peppery, but what I love most about it is it's smoky. Like I love a good peated Scotch and a peated Irish whiskey.
Sure.
Great. I love those when you're sitting around a fire pit in the winter. This one, it's smoky, but I could have this year round because it's just light enough and smooth enough that you get like that sweetness from the corn with that smoky, peppery flavor.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. If you are a peated Scotch drinker, you would
love this.
You would really geek out on this. This is like, it literally does taste like it's a smoked grain, but it's not. It's just that's the flavor that's imparted by this varietal of corn. Fourth generation farmer of this corn, and the only place to get it is from Jorge,
Campos,
who is also has a master's degree in chemistry, which is just mind-boggling. All right, so what's the next varietal we have to try?
So the third one we have is it's a azul y rosa, so a blue and pink corn varietal. It is out of the region of Querétaro, which is actually honestly like it's where the distillery is. So it's the closest farmer. Thank you. To the distillery, and so Juan Olvera is the farmer who they formed this relationship with. And his story was pretty fascinating. I enjoyed this one because it was just so unique.
So Juan's story was a little bit different, I guess, because he was one of the first people that the distillery made contact with because he grew multiple heirloom varietals. He was in the same region.
It's local.
And so they went to him and they were like, okay, like, we want to buy some of your corn. And he was like, I'm sure you do. Right? And so
A little skeptical.
skeptical. And so he has them out and they talk and they realize like this guy has a deep respect for like terroir, his varietals, the entire process and all that stuff. And while they were there talking with him, he said to them that his corn speaks to him. Like, and they were like, what?
They'd sing songs.
Yeah, like your corn speaks to you? And he's like, yeah, the corn speaks to me. And so after that, I think there was a bit of a vetting process that he put the distillery through.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the master distiller, she's like, okay, yeah, call me next week. Master distiller calls, I'm busy. Call me next week. Yeah, so this goes on for like
He's like, call me next week, see if I have some corn.
Yes, 7 to 8 weeks go on. It's like, all right, these guys they're not gonna give up. So okay, I guess I'll give them some corn, some corn, and see how they do. And they distilled a little whiskey, and then had one out, and
Right, but it was hard even to get him to come to the distillery.
yeah, he was resistant.
He was resistant. And so they kept calling him and saying, like, come out. Because they have this process. They're like, if we can just get these people that are skeptical out here and they can see
what we're doing.
the
Yeah.
respect and the honor that we're showing to the corn varietals, then they'll feel more comfortable with us. So they kept inviting him out, and he was saying, maybe next week. Finally, he comes out, and they set him down, and they're just letting him taste different barrels. And at one point, he tastes the whiskey. He says, this is my corn.
This is my corn, yeah.
He said, this is my corn. He smelled it. He tasted it again. He said, this is my corn.
Yeah.
Like, definitively.
Yes.
And they were not tasting him in any particular order. They were just given random samples in the distillery, and they looked it up, and sure enough, that whiskey had been made from his corn.
Yep.
And they were like, well, how did you know that it was your corn? And he said, I told you. My corn speaks to me. And he knew that that was his.
Yeah.
And so basically, after this process, and he saw how much respect and honor that they were paying towards the grains and their history, that gave him the comfort that he needed to continue to sell his corn to them so that they can make this whiskey.
So this is one of their staples.
Yeah.
You can always find it at the distillery.
Yeah. So what do we have next?
Well, our final bottle, which this is my favorite by far. Like, I love this one. The Negro's my second favorite because they're so unique. But this is the Maíz Morado, which is a purple corn, and it is indigenous to the Huichol people of Mexico. And so the farmer is Shakar Sayeg. And so there's this whole story, like both of us, like we're sitting here listening to Danny, our guide, tell the story about Miguel and the Huichol, and I mean, we're both starting to tear up and having to put out Kleenexes of like, oh, okay, all right, cool. I'm just doing a whiskey tasting. Like, it's not just, there's something in my eye, there's dust, you know.
Kind of a whiskey.
Yeah, so this corn varietal has supported the Huichol people, which is an indigenous group that have maintained the purity of their culture throughout generations. And the story is that the chief of the Huichol people, his daughter fell in love with somebody that was not part of their people group. And his name is Miguel. And he went to the Huichol chief and said, will you allow me to marry your daughter? And the chief said, no, we're not going to allow that. You're an outsider. You'll never be a part of us. Like,
very resistant.
Your wish would destroy part of our culture. Like, we don't want anything to do with you. But the daughter was in love, and they got married anyway. And it took Miguel years of showing his commitment to the values and principles of the Huichol people and the commitment to the chief's daughter. They had grandchildren. The chief was obviously involved in the grandchildren's life. And eventually Miguel, I guess, won the chief over. And the chief, to show Miguel that after years of service and, commitment, the chief came to Miguel and gave him 3 ears of the Huichol corn, which the corn varietal is called Huichol. Like, that's like it's named after the people group because they're the only ones that have it, and they protect it and they don't let it get outside of their people group. Right? And so he came to Miguel and he gave him 3 ears of corn, and he said, like, I want you to take these 3 ears of corn and sow them and use this to support your family because you're part of us now.
Like a sign of acceptance.
Yes.
And this means you're part of our people group. Your family's part of our people group, and we want you to sustain yourself the same way that we do because you're part of us now.
Yeah.
So years later, Miguel runs into a commercial farmer named Shaker, and Shaker discovers that Miguel has the Huichol corn that no one else can get.
Has this,
And he asked him if he can buy some so that he can start growing it commercially. And Miguel's like,
no,
absolutely not. No. Like, I worked so hard to be accepted by the Huichol people. Like, I would be rejected from them if they found out that I sold this corn to you. This is worth more than any amount of money to me. Like, you cannot have this corn. Yeah. And Shaker was understanding, and they remained friends. He didn't badger him about it. But years later, Miguel's daughter fell sick with an illness, and she had been taken to multiple specialists, and no one in Mexico could figure out what was wrong, and she was still suffering, and they weren't able to give her the care that she needed. And so Shaker, who had more financial resources than most because he was a larger commercial farmer, was able to fly in doctors from the United States and pay for their lodging and kept them there until the doctors were able to save the daughter's life. So after all of that took place, Miguel went to the chief of the Huichol people and said, hey, there's this guy. He saved your granddaughter. He had no expectation of repayment. He did this out of the kindness of his heart. And I'm an outsider, but you've accepted me because I have adopted the, philosophy and ideals, the values of the Huichol people. Right. And I think that this guy has also shown the values by saving your granddaughter. And the chief agreed, and Miguel was granted permission to bring 3 ears of corn.
Always 3.
To Shaker for him to start to sow that corn and to grow it. And so that was the thing that caused me to
we're both crying.
Tear up at that point, right? The whole idea that, all of this is based on honor and respect and loyalty and heritage and all that stuff. It's not about money, and it's not even about flavor, right?
No, it's just pride in the process and
right.
Your culture, pride and culture.
Yeah.
And so the distillery owner found out that Shaker had this grain, and he said, "Give me some, and I'll show you what I can do with it. But I promise I won't do anything with it without permission from everyone, because I don't want to disrespect the history of all this." And so he was given enough to make 1 barrel of whiskey, and they barreled it. They don't have to age it for long because they're not looking for barrel influence. He bottled a bottle for the chief of the Huichol people. He bought a bottle for Miguel, and he bought a bottle for Shaker, and he sent it to all 3 of them. And he said, "I want you to taste this. And if you think that what we're doing with this is not honoring to the Huichol people, I will give you the rest of the barrel that I have, and I will never make whiskey from this corn again. But if you think that this does honor and respect the history of the Huichol people, I would like permission to continue to make this whiskey." And apparently the chief liked it because we're drinking it.
We're drinking it today, so I guess something went really well with that meeting.
So what do you taste and smell on this one?
This one is the most unique, and why it's my favorite, honestly.
It's the most complex.
It's just so complex. Like it's kind of earthy, it's kind of sweet, it's got like that honey, it's kind of got like a citrusy. Like it's just, it hits so many different parts of the palate that it's, I'm at a loss for words, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a corn flavor. There's a pepper note. There's a mint note or a spearmint note. There's a citrus note that's like ruby red grapefruit, maybe even like lychee. There's honey.
Yes.
There's just like a corn flavor. Like it's so complex.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
If you can tell, there's just age and history behind this corn,
right?
And the grain, like it's just lasted and endured for years,
right?
So I mean,
we get excited about a distillery that's been in operation since the 1800s.
Yes, we nerd out. Like, this is awesome.
But this corn has sustained an indigenous group of people that have fought to maintain their culture.
Right. It's kept them
potentially millennia. Right. Like, that's what's got me so excited about this one.
Yeah. And I will say about all of these bottles, the other thing I like, in the States, Frey Ranch, I'll give them a throw out, right?
Yeah.
So Frey Ranch, they grow their own corn, they bottles, the whole process, right? I love that this whole distillery is about farm to table, farm to bottle, right? And it's hand blown glass from Mexico, and so like the glass is unique, and each one, it's a similar design, but each one is specific.
It's handmade.
It's handmade. Like, there is no exact cookie cutter process to any of this. It is all done by hand with love. Like, it is a labor of love process. And I think that's what I love the most about it is I've never experienced anything with any distillery I've gone to that is at this level.
Like truly artisan. Like every piece of it
artisan.
represents. I mean, we didn't know it when we went down there that there's people that do like glass, and that's what their history is from, and like they know their stuff, and these are beautiful.
Yeah, there's an indigenous group there that they do beads, and there's an indigenous group that does glass, and there's an indigenous group and that's something that we don't understand here in the U.S. We don't have people groups that are maintaining culture that way. Maybe like the Amish with furniture or something.
Sure.
But there's so much culture involved in every single element of these bottles.
Right.
And they were all about $50.
Yeah. Very
Super
reasonable.
expensive.
You can't get it in the States.
Not
Yes.
yet.
Yes.
We are pushing.
We beg Danny. It's like, hey, if you want to come into the U.S., like I'll help you. I can find you an
We
importer.
know a guy that knows a guy.
We know a guy. I can do some marketing. I'll bring a whole crew. We'll do a single barrel. Blah blah blah. So
I'll put the cows again.
So if you ever get a chance to pick any of these up, I think that you should, just because of the significance of the different focus of what these things represent compared to the mass-produced things that we all adore and love. There's cultural significance to all this, and I feel like that matters. If you ever get a chance to go down there,
I say, definitely go to San Miguel de Allende. It's a World UNESCO
beautiful.
Heritage. It's gorgeous. World UNESCO Heritage place. Like,
it's safe. Like, I felt safe the entire time we were there.
you don't have to speak Spanish to get around.
Everyone
It's very
speaks
much
English.
it's an expat community.
Yeah.
And like, everybody's just friendly, and there's super great food of
my
all
gosh.
varieties.
Everywhere we went, I was like,
It was
this is
phenomenal.
my favorite margarita.
what if we gave some stuff away?
We should.
I think it's a great idea because you can't get it in the States. So
Yeah.
how are these awesome, wonderful viewers going to experience it?
I don't know. I think we should just give them some.
What if we gave five 1 ounce sample packs?
Five
Five people.
5 people?
Okay.
Yeah, and then they can all invite a friend. Yes.
Cinco.
Cinco
I took
people.
out on my
Yeah.
Your answer.
Cinco sample packs. That's
Cinco,
what's
yeah.
Simple Pacos.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you can just add O to the end of English.
I
was gonna say, like,
I don't think so. It's probably very
Digitos.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
Let's
so
not
we're
do
going to
that.
give 5 1-ounce sample packs away, and the way that you can enter to win is to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, which will notify you of future
Yes.
content pieces that we release. And every content piece has a free giveaway.
Yeah.
So it will also notify you of other free giveaways.
Yes.
Right?
Fill out the web form.
That's the most important. We will run a randomizer.
Yeah.
Post it publicly, reach out to the winner, get your address. You have to give us your address or we can't ship you your stuff. But
Sure.
if you do, we will ship it
Yeah.
to you absolutely for free. It won't cost you anything.
No.
If you want to support the channel,
Yes.
there are 3 different ways to do so.
Yes.
The first way is Patreon.
Patreon.
Patron's great.
We have lots of member benefits, like bonus content, distillery takeovers, discounts on merch, and like a level for every budget, really. We've got 6 different levels, so there's a little something for everybody.
Yeah, so link in description below if you want to see what the options are for you. The second way you can support would be to buy some merchandise from bourbonrealtalk.com.
What?
And-
I also created all of the things on that website, including our amazing glasses.
And the website
shirts.
itself.
And the shirt and hats.
Hats.
Yeah, she did
Aroma
all that.
kits,
Yeah.
all of the things created by whiskey people for whiskey people. It's literally I do whiskey things all day.
All day. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
For you guys.
Juan Campo has a whiskey, passion for corn. We have a passion for bringing people together through bourbon.
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
You're hired.
Yeah. We're going to transition to that in just a second. But the third way that you can support the channel is if you
he's a
were
real
to
estate
hire
agent,
me
yeah.
as your residential real estate agent in the Houston or Dallas metro areas. My real estate business has subsidized this channel since its inception. And
You give away epic closing gifts.
epic closing gifts.
You have an
for,
epic transaction coordinator.
yeah.
I
we'll
wear
work
all the
with both
hats,
of us.
people.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
All the things.
We're a team.
Master galore.
So,
Figure it out.
link in description below. And if this is your first time tuning into the channel, we'd like to let you know a little bit about our philosophy. Allison referred to it. We're all about bringing people together. And that's something that's personally important to the two of us because I lost my brother to suicide in 2014. And in the aftermath of his passing and talking with his, friend group, I realized that my brother lost a lot of the social connections that keep people grounded to this world. And I saw whiskey helping individuals create those same types of social connections. And so I thought to myself, maybe if I can get you connected to whiskey, the whiskey will do the rest of the job and get you connected to others. And so we started this podcast. We also started Bourbon Real Talk Community. And that has helped us to create an environment that's troll-free, which is important because there are a lot of trolls out there, a lot of individuals that are showing hate online. And those individuals motivated us to start Bourbon Real Talk Community, but they also taught us an important lesson, and that is if they can hate online, we can love online. And that's why we end every podcast the same way, and that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that we love you.
We love you.
We'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we go. Here we go.
Take
again
two.
on our own.
Because I'm stupid. And I should not record when Wes is not here.
We still think you're cute.
You're so cute.
I don't think it's cute. I don't like recording twice.
Yeah, so we're just gonna pet you.
We're just gonna pet you.
In your tiny
This
shirt.
one, I'm not able to say, hey, you got a hair on your nipple. It wasn't his nipple. His nipples aren't hairy. I don't know. You do.
Well, I mean, it's not hair on the actual
Yes,
nipple.
yes.
All around, plenty.
We have to do a Lindsey sandwich for the outtakes. At
Yeah.
least.
Should call that a buzzkill sandwich. I'm a buzzkill.
No, you're the Oreo.
I'm like a pickle flavored Oreo.
Some
Good.
people really like
You-
pickles. What's the dill, bro?
Yeah, what's the deal? Something you should know about Lindsay. She might be the only person in the world that prefers the cookie part and not the cream
I
part.
do. I throw away the cream.
In this scenario, we were
That's
the
all I
boring
need.
cookie and she was the exciting cream. And just like in real life, she underestimates the value of the cream. It's like she's got body dysmorphia or something.
I definitely do. Feel my shirt. Like, just pull it, stretch it. Isn't that cool? This is not going on the
Like,
Randall,
what?
don't talk like that. You better cut it all out.
I'll do what I want.
Not, I'm a lady. I was
You're married
19.
to the vanilla girl.
I was 19. You
I mean,
can't
we can't judge you.
fault me for that. Yep. That's not weird at all.
All right, what do you say we give... You guys need to lock...
It just makes
Okay,
me
well,
laugh because Randy will be like, so what